Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another iteration of Let's Take Five. This is the podcast where we look at one of the greats in cinema, and we sort of talk about why they're so great through the process of reviewing 5 of their films. My name's Ray Martindale.
I'm Austin Luker.
And today we are talking about James Stewart. We're on the 4th film of our 5. The previous films we covered were The Philadelphia Story, It's a Wonderful Life, Winchester 73. We'll wrap up with Vertigo next week, but this week we are talking about Harvey. Harvey is the story about Elwood P. Dowd, who, what we think's going on is he has a best friend, an imaginary rabbit, which is 6 foot tall. Oh, 6 foot 3 inches. Let's be specific on that. 6 foot 3 inch tall rabbit that he can see. So this is sort of ruining the social circles of all the family because they can't invite Uncle Elwood around because Uncle Elwood's going to be introducing him to everyone to a rabbit that's not actually there. So this ends up being a film that it's kind of sad in a lot of ways because Elwood's not really bothering anybody. He's just enjoying life. He's enjoying life with his best friend, this imaginary rabbit, and everyone in his life is trying to lock him up in a mental institution. The movie actually has, I think, a lot of themes that talk about mental health, which I think is kind of interesting and not necessarily something that was being broached at the time, but ultimately that argument may sort of fall apart as what we find out is that Harvey is actually real.
It is true, and the biggest surprise for me rewatching this was they say that actually pretty early on.
Yeah, I didn't remember that as well. I thought it was kind of like a gag thing at the end with the gate opening up, but then no. Yeah, pretty early on, it's established that this rabbit is actually there. It's a puka, which is a spirit that is mischievous. But Harvey seems like a cool guy. You know, Harvey likes to drink,
and that's what I think. I think the film is actually a bit richer because he's real. Because you can still talk so much about mental illness and accepting of people and recognizing where there is actual harm being done, while still having Harvey be real.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because I mean, the clues early on, they go to the bar, they pour him a drink, they cut away before you see them drink the drinks, but no one's implying that they're dumping it out and he's pretending.
Yeah.
But the biggest clue early on is that they find a hat with holes cut out the top of it for Harvey's ears.
Yeah, it's a really, really cute movie. It's an opportunity. Jimmy Stewart has an opportunity in this film to sort of put the film on his back and carry it through. It was a play before it was a movie. It's a beloved play.
Pulitzer Prize winning
play. It's difficult to... The only issue I have with it having been a play, and I have an issue with it, is that I simply cannot imagine anyone other than Jimmy Stewart playing Elwood P. Dowd. That just seems nutty to me.
This spring it's going to be done in Chicago.
Yeah.
I think we got to go, right?
I mean, I really do love this. This was a movie that was always going to be on the 5 for me. When we talk about these artists and we break them down, we both make picks, but the 2 that was definitely always going to be on this list was It's a Wonderful Life and Harvey. Mainly because whereas Harvey, I guess, may have some shortcomings as far as being something that stands the test of time as one of the truly great movies of all time, which we've had so many on this podcast, it's such an incredible performance by Jimmy Stewart that it almost is in his lexicon of, okay, well, he's James Bailey and he's Elwood P. Dowd.
Yeah. And Mr. Smith, probably.
And Mr. Smith. And that would be probably the other one.
And, it's I feel so dumb. It's probably my, 5th time doing this on the show, but, I forget how good the range is of these people we keep covering. And I went into Harvey with a bit lower expectations. I still like the film quite a bit. I think it's very funny. I think it's plotted a bit weird, kind of going back and forth about certain locations and such. But what was so amazing to me is this is a very friendly character. And we've seen...
He's the nicest person
He's the nicest person ever.
He's the nicest character we've ever covered on the podcast.
And that's what's kind of brilliant of having Harvey be this mystical puka being, is that, while Harvey, the puka, is supposed to be a bit mischievous, he's ultimately not exactly, because he doesn't have an intentional goal.
He's not unfriendly.
He is just a creature who's walking around being, in his own self, and those who want to see him seem to be able to see him. And Jimmy Stewart's character of
Elwood P. Dowd.
Roman knows something completely different. Because he's looking at everyone in that some sort of lens, the friendliness he has towards his common man, it's done as a joke, but it's done as such a wonderful moment of humanity. Like the taxi driver he invites home for dinner, the people who are trying to drug him and lock him up.
He invites him to dinner
Because he sees the best in everybody, and while his family is so obsessed with the unwritten societal regulations of how we function, he is removed from all of them in a way that is so, like, he's the man we want to be in life, because he doesn't see anyone in any sort of class, any sort of situation, anyone who's harmed him. Everyone is someone that could make someone's life better.
Yeah, because the original problems that his family have with Elwood is that he is inviting guests to dinner that are of a lower class. One gentleman in particular appears to be an alcoholic, and is served jail time, and that's sad too. But Elwood doesn't see. He just doesn't. He always sees the good in humanity. He's like the John Locke character not John Locke from Lost, but John Locke. Actual John Locke,
the philosopher.
The people that are inherently
Yeah.
good people, and he always sort of sees that in people. So yeah, it is kind of this weird situation you get into, whether or not it's okay to mess with that if he has a mental illness. Like, at what point do we stop this? If he's not harming anybody, why is it any of our business? All he seems to be doing is bringing joy to so many people.
Exactly. And that's what, I mean, the end of the film, when he is close to getting the fictional drug that will make him more normal.
Serum 773 or something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The MacGuffin, whatever it is. But basically, it's going to, basically help him out mentally, but it's going to make him a normal person. And the cab driver, who so brilliantly says, I've seen people come here, and I see them come back, and it's the same road we drive on, and when we go there, and they're very pleasant, happy to talk to me. On the way back, they're screaming at what direction they want.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same drive.
Yeah, it's just like, it's this humans are not inherently good type of argument to contrast that. One thing that I think that he says, that taxi driver says, is such a good line, is that when he brings them to this mental institution, they get the shot. There are good people on the way there, the bad people when they get back. You already said that. But one of the things that he says is that sometimes we sit and watch the sunset. Sometimes we sit and watch the sunset when the sunset's not even there. But they're still good people. Again, it's the heart. That's the Harvey thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so if there is a mental disability, that doesn't mean they're still not humans.
Correct.
They're still capable.
They're not a separate species.
Exactly.
They're contributing, and they're interacting in a way that means a lot. And even if you go towards the idea that what if Harvey isn't real? You look at the way he is treating someone who's not real. I mean, obviously it's done to show physical space of when he's holding Harvey's back to bring him in and whatnot, or pulling a seat out. That's to kind of tell the audience where Harvey is, but really it also tells how nice he is.
Yeah, Harvey's a cool guy.
He's just this is his friend, he's his guest, he's going to his bar. Let me pull your seat up for you. Let me hold your back as we go this way. He's being a super good person.
Yeah, and by all accounts, Elwood P. Dowd doesn't actually have any disabilities other than the fact that he's an alcoholic.
He is, and he has a very interesting argument for it.
He's the most pleasant alcoholic ever.
Yeah.
He just takes such delight in meeting people at bars.
Yeah.
He sees the bar as sort of this, as like a home. As in home, a very comforting place to be, to sit down with a friend and have a drink and talk about life. And he has a very romantic view of his idea of what the bar is and what that means to some people.
And that was it's the moment when he tells that kind of mindset to the doctors who are basically trying to, they're the ones on the fence the entire time of we need to bring him back, but...
Yeah,
he might be a good person. We could be doing a bad thing here.
Yeah,
and here that's when they really kind of stay in their mindset, it's going, he's doing no harm to anyone. They still don't believe in Harvey because they have a reason to, but they recognize that this man is a wonderful man. But his affinity for alcohol is also, I think, just a really fun ongoing joke.
Yeah, because the rabbits are drunk too.
Yeah, the rabbit loves to drink. But I love later in the movie because they reveal that Harvey has the opportunity to stop time and let you kind of enjoy whatever life you want to have in that like frozen second. Mm-hmm. He's talking to this doctor, and the doctor like describes his best thing. It's like, yeah, having all this like this nice warm beer with like and the girl I love with this. And Edward keeps going like, that sounds good. I mean, I would choose whiskey.
Yeah, it's like I think you're gonna get tired of beer after that 2 weeks.
Like he still doesn't like I'm not like forcing upon you. I'm reasonably disagreeing with you. Almost as a friend, like you're gonna want whiskey, so be sure to pack one thing of whiskey.
Well, that is a really interesting scene too, because what Harvey has the capability, as you just said, to turn back time or freeze time, so you can go back to any time and place and just spend a while there. And he has that power, and that Harvey would use that power for people. He would do that, and it's debated whether or not he should like pass Harvey off so he can have him do it for the psychiatrist or whatnot. But that said, that is an advantage that Elwood's never taken. Because Elwood lives in the moment. He loves the moment.
Because the doctor asked him, like, well, have you done that? And he goes, well, Harvey's always offered it to me, but I've just never thought of a place I'd rather go than here.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful, because he is the discovery he has towards everybody, and the kindness he has towards everyone. I mean, his niece is the worst.
Yeah, she's terrible.
And he always compliments her when he's describing her to people. Like, I got a really charming niece. And we're like, I don't think so. But like, that's always
excuse me. Yeah, if there were a negative part to this film, it's basically every scene with the niece and the mother. Because they're very, like...
bit one note.
They're so one note. And it's that stage humor... of that period of 1950 where they have like their faux sort of British New England accents, and they're just really annoying to listen to nowadays. But part of that is the contrast of how wonderful it is to listen to Jimmy Stewart talk. Like I had to hear that dude read the phone book.
The exception in his family is the most praised actor in this movie, Josephine Hull, who won the Oscar as his sister, who is just a nervous wreck the entire movie.
Yeah. I wasn't into her. I'm not into her so much. I think it was probably a time and place thing.
I think so. I really enjoyed her because you get the contrast of whereas Edward is so enlightened and is so at peace, this woman who is not ever, and because of that, they assume that she should be locked up instead.
Oh, that scene's comedy gold.
It's brilliant.
So yeah, she shows up to lock up Elwood at this sanitarium, and she ends up getting locked up
because she thinks like, oh, you know, she's having her brother having a rabbit. It's definitely like she knew that he was bringing her in. She lied last second.
Yeah, it's like
she seems so unstable, whereas Jimmy Stewart made friends with everybody.
Everybody there, right. By the way, that doctor is hilariously stupid.
Yeah.
He's the worst doctor of all time.
But he gets into these like aside moments of like how awful he is too.
I know, definitely. And those always work to good effect. I mean, it's good comedy. The whole thing sort of it works really well. But occasionally it got a bit too, like, got to clean the wax out of my ears listening to her.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is your least favorite film of
the five
we're covering. What about this put it there? Is it just the other ones are so good?
It's a bit of that. I really, really, really like Jimmy Stewart in this because he's playing someone that truly is like an enlightened character. There is a joy and a comfortableness of being himself in every moment that is just a delight to want, in a way of like, we all should like learn how to be that zen in a way. That it's amazing, especially since it's the same year as Winchester 73. We look at that man, that's a man with like anger behind his eyes. This is the opposite, and it's so warm. It was interesting, on the DVD I watched, it had an intro that was recorded by Jimmy Stewart in 1990, and it's just his voice.
Yeah.
But it's like old man with the Jimmy Stewart voice, and it's like, oh, please read me every book ever. But he talked about how, like, after all these years, Harvey is still one of his favorite films, and more than anything else, when you walk on the street, people will come to him and say, how's Harvey doing?
Yeah.
How's Harvey doing today? And it was like the joy he had with that character and the way he connected with that character. I mean, especially I think in his life and especially post-war life, we all want to be Ed Wood, right?
Yeah, no, it is interesting because, I mean, obviously George Bailey is always going to, I think now at least, be the most iconic. It didn't start out that way because...
No, it bombed.
It bombed, right. But there is just something about... I mean, I could not imagine anyone else playing Elwood P. Dowd. I mean, I know we mentioned that earlier, but, like, Jimmy is just... That aw shucks thing about him is so perfect, and it's not a crutch, the aw shucks thing. I mean, it's a gift that he had. He's just a charming gift that Jimmy naturally had. I mean, I think that if you could point, we're pointing at 1950, we're saying we did Winchester 73, and now we're doing Harvey. I mean, Jimmy's one of the better actors ever when you can just point to that year and say, my goodness, that year or two, you know, completely different human beings, right? In a lot of the way we judge actors, whether this is fair or not, is we judge based on their sort of range of characters. And I feel like Jimmy, because of the time he was in, and the fact that the way his voice sounded and whatnot, people may not always assume that how gifted he actually was as far as that range is concerned. You know, he's not just a Jack Nicholson. Like he had, and that's not to impugn Jack because he plays Jack extraordinarily well.
Sure.
And there's a lot of roles I could imagine anyone else playing that he did. But Jimmy's just so gifted and sort of a Renaissance man coming out of those early eras and really sort of is really transcendent. He's someone that you never grow tired of. You always just want to listen to him talk.
And the aw shucks aspect is really interesting because I think when that phrase is used, it is used in a bit of a negative sense.
I think so too.
I think maybe a coastal snobbery kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But what's amazing is that none of his characters are naive. People think that this character is naive mm-hmm. or just straight up wrong, but he's very articulate about the way he's living his life. And even though he doesn't... He's not exactly naive, he just has so much hope and intention that I love the confidence he has, like when he's like they say, we want you to stay here at the hospital, and he goes, well, I respect that, but I want to go to the bar. Yeah. I hope you understand. Like he sees both options, he weighed both options, and he goes, and then like at the very end, like, you know, he sees how upset his sister is about everything. He goes, well, I mean, I don't want to, but if you want me to take the pill, I'll be happy to. And whenever they keep opening the door of him about to take it, he's very happy. He's rolling his arm up, whatnot.
Yeah,
he doesn't fully understand the consequences. He understands that his want for the future, he doesn't weigh as highly as others. And I don't think that's being naive. I think it's just being gracious.
Well, and he's extraordinarily intelligent. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that I think is lost. He has he's very perceptive, and we hinted on it a little bit earlier, but you sort of get to see an insight on why he enjoys Harvey so much and why they are such good friends. It's because him and Harvey both have similar outlooks on life. I mean, they have similar interests, obviously, the drinking being a big one. But he has this wonderful monologue about, which I think surprises everyone, and how he views the bar. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but just to emphasize that, I mean, that's where you get a true breadth of just how intelligent he is and how not naive he is. It's something to this effect that, you know, people bring all their baggage into the bar. They come in with everything, and when they can't see Harvey, they leave with envy. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was so interesting because it is true. We spend a lot of time with characters that try to confront Elwood, and they want Elwood to be, quote, normal. And yet those that can actually see Harvey or see how Harvey is with Elwood and how Elwood is with Harvey and see how close they are and how great of a bond they have, you actually end up being envious of him.
And that's so evident because at the end, people are kind of matching up and everyone's like happily ever after with people, you know, linked arm and whatnot. He doesn't have that until you realize, of course he does, as he's walking down the street empty from our eyes with his best friend. I mean, the affinity he has for that painting.
Oh my goodness.
Of him and this giant bunny is like the proudest moment he has in the whole movie.
I gotta get a copy or print of that because that is the funniest. It's the picture of Jimmy Stewart with the 6-foot-tall rabbit.
It's a really sophisticated, like, almost presidential pose.
Exactly. It's painted like a presidential painting.
Because he's so...
oh my god, that's hilarious. That's one of my favorite bits in the film.
It's so great, especially when his sister is not looking, describing the wrong thing behind.
Yeah. I mean, which just screams theater, right? Like, that's like that's be so good on stage.
And it works in a way because while people are matching up romantic reasons, Elwood is looking for that connectivity with his fellow man, or Puka. And that's what he's most interested in. And he happened to find that so much with Harvey, that this best friendship is actually really, really touching. And to have Jimmy Stewart pull it off with no one who's in the room with him is really an incredible feat.
No, it's he's in a master class of actors. It's one of the greats. That's why we're covering him on the podcast. Yeah. He's just an absolute delight to watch. I mean, there's no other way to do it. I mean, you get between this performance and Mr. Smith and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, just so likable. I mean, beings like just wonderful, wonderful people. I love how. I'm sorry. I love too that the first night he met Harvey, he was really drunk. He was wasted, putting his friend who was wasted in a taxi cab, and then he hears, "Hello." He turns around and he sees Harvey leaning on a street lamp. He tells a story about how he met him, and to an outsider's perspective, it's hilarious because what you think is, oh, he got drunk and then saw a 6-foot-tall rabbit. So I don't know.
And there's something really great about that, because in so many of these movies where the main character meets a mystical creature and then recognizes the greatness of that, there's always the denial of the call, like too long in the movie, right? Mm-hmm. They meet a ghost character. No, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts. Sorry, buddy, we're here together.
At some point, you really need to, because you're about to get killed by one.
Yeah. Come on. He never has that at all. He recognizes it almost as a miracle from the beginning, and what a wonderful treat this is. I can meet so many people. They're going to meet a bunny. This is nice. Like, it's a new opportunity. He never denies that, or never. He's not insecure where he's going to question his sanity and go like, I'm not seeing this, covering your ears. It's really gleeful in a way, and I love it as opposed to the sister who's always freaking out. The envy you mentioned is also present with her very subtly, because early on when she's like talking about how upset she is that her brothers have this and whatnot, she goes, and sometimes I see him too.
Yeah, I know. No, and
she wants to see him because she loves her brother,
or she does see him.
No, I'm saying she does.
Yeah,
I think because in order to see Harvey, you have to really want to see Harvey.
Yeah,
and I think because she loves her brother so much and wants to believe in her brother, when those moments happen, she does see Harvey, and then she questions herself and doesn't see him anymore.
Yeah,
it's love based.
I wonder what how Harvey works. Like, how does he choose who gets to see him or not? These are things I thought about while watching the movie. It's just funny that he would show himself to Elwood P. Dowd. Like, what was it about Elwood that made him want to become president? And also never leave his side. Yeah. Because you get kind of like, okay, if he's like this mystical, like, mischievous fairy type person, you see that sort of thing, and I know they're not real, but you see that as sort of a nomadic type of thing.
Sure.
But this entity has decided to stay by Elwood's side because he enjoys Elwood so much.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. Like,
what's also interesting is the way that Elwood assumes everyone can see him, because he has an assumption that everyone would want to see him.
But he is aware, though, that some people don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he kind of thinks, like, you would want to. Why would you not want the opportunity, chance to see a 6'3"?
I mean, I would.
Yeah, of course. And I love the moment when he's on the phone with his sister, and his sister's like trying to trick him, and she goes, "No, Harvey's here. He's taking a bath." And he goes, "Oh, never mind. Harvey's walking to the bar." But then, at the true moment of concern, not to insult her, well, you better figure out who's in that bath.
Yeah.
Someone's up. You have a mysterious person in your house.
Exactly.
Then he hangs up.
He assumes that she would see Harvey.
But also, he would never assume that she would lie to him. So he's like, well, you better watch out for that guy in the bath.
Yeah, I know. That's really funny. And then, because later in the film, someone else does see him. Harvey does. The head psychiatrist does. And it's hilarious because he looks... he starts regaling the group about the story about him seeing him. You don't actually see that in action until sort of later in the film. But he describes it as if it's real. Like, he's like, yep, so they were sitting over here, you see, and then he was sitting over there, and they had a conversation. Well, him and Harvey got to talking, you see, so they went up to the bar to get a drink. So, like, the way it's just funny hearing Harvey be talked about like that way, like as if I was talking about my friend Bob, like not a 6 foot tall rabbit.
And the ending is so interesting because, I mean, the way I take it, he does take the psychiatrist on the 2-week thing within like a millisecond.
Is that the way you took that?
That's what I took it as. And then I think it's done because Harvey would not like betray that guy. He did it, but at the end of the journey, he decided to like come back to Elwood. I think like it is a real like almost sacrifice in Elwood's mind. Like, oh, you're gonna go? I mean, okay, I'll let you.
He's gonna let him go. Yeah.
So they time freezes. We don't see it, but he comes back. And I think what's really interesting about the nature of their friendship is that Harvey seems ultimately he's a nice person, Bunny Puka. I think that the reason why he didn't stay with the doctor is simply because during that 2 weeks, the doctor got something out of Harvey. Harvey never got anything out of the doctor.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And a true friendship, you get both. And at the end, it's why they're walking hand in hand, because they both enjoy each other's presence so much. Yeah. You get why this magical being would stay with Elwood, because he's that great.
You said that in a way that I've been trying to get at. Yeah, it's just that I don't... Elwood never took advantage of Harvey's power.
No.
He never because by his own admission, he knew that Harvey had this power, and I'm sure that Harvey had offered that power to Elwood, but Elwood never took it because he loves living in the moment. What Elwood enjoys is going out with Harvey and having a nice drink with his friend, and then meeting people.
Also reading together.
I love how the people in the bar are the only people that don't judge Elwood. In fact, the bartender stands up for Elwood, the owner of the proprietor.
Well, he pours drinks for Harvey.
He pours drinks for Harvey. I don't think that guy sees Harvey, no. But he sees Elwood, and he knows that Elwood's a great guy. He's just gonna. I mean, who cares?
He's doing no harm.
Exactly.
The guy at the end of the bar who said that guy pays for it. That guy's the asshole.
Yeah, I know, and he's a jerk. And he says, "Yeah, that guy at the end of the bar will cover it," which he's talking to no one.
Yeah, he's just insulting
exactly. And then Elwood turns around and says, "He'd be delighted." And he says, "What? He'd be delighted to pay for the drink."
He refuses to accept insults. And that makes it such a charming thing.
And when you think he's gonna get the girl,
yeah,
he's too nice for that. He sets up the other two.
Yeah.
Like, you think he's trying to, move in or something, but no, he says, well, I think she'd like to dance with you, like the way he does his thing. It's a movie that has a ton of charm and is a lot more introspective and philosophical than it probably ever had a right to be.
And that's, to me, the strength. It's obviously Jimmy Stewart, it's the character, it's the philosophies. I think the plotting is a mess.
Yeah.
That's, ultimately, it's a really fun movie, but that's where it feels the most stagey of, we're going to go back to the house scene. Now it's going to be a doctor scene. Now it's a house scene.
It may work better on stage in that regard. I think the biggest problem is his niece is just terrible. She's just
nothing else besides that.
She's just trying to get laid.
Yeah,
literally, that's her plot.
True.
She's just it's just like an odd. It seems beneath the storyline. It's very archetypal and something that probably just happened as a byproduct of being written in the 40s.
It's in limited formats too, I think.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. So, I mean, I guess it's good that it gives her more than just one note, but other than just being another person that's freaked out by Elwood.
But she's with the awful guy at the end, so it's kind of great.
Yeah,
I kind of love that.
Yeah, that's good. That's true too. Yeah, that guy was weird.
Yeah, I liked him. Yeah. All right, that's it for Harvey. We only have one more left in Jimmy Stewart. Like we always say, this has gone by a bit too fast to me because this is such a great delight. So you can catch us next Friday where we're going to discuss Vertigo, which is very different from Harvey.
You don't say.
Spoiler. Until then, you can leave us a comment at theartimmortal.com where you can talk about this film, any other film we've covered, or even one of our other podcasts, which are The Immortals, where Four friends and myself, we review the 1001 movies, albums, food, songs, children's books, and TV shows you must consume before you die. Yesterday's episode, we covered the film Rain Man, and Sunflower Seeds, and the song I adore, Streets of Philadelphia. So, I bet that one's awesome.
It's a good song.
It's a good song. And also, you can email us at letstake5@artimore.com, also on Twitter at the Immortals Pod. And where else can we find you, Eric?
You can find me at my YouTube page. Constant Diversion is the YouTube page. Check me out on there. I review video games.
All right. And also, leave us a review on iTunes. Hope you'll find the show.
Yeah. We know you're out there.
Yeah, thank you.
So, and we appreciate that, but every review sort of helps us out. So if you can drop one.
And truly, thank you again. And now I feel the need to go to a bar.
You want to be my Harvey right now?
I'll be your Harvey.
I mean, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're recording that. That's probably a little late when Harvey and Elwood actually started.
So true. All right, until next week, everyone. I'm Austin Luger.
I'm Eric Martindale.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
How did you happen to call him Harvey?
Well, Harvey's his name.
How do you know that?
Well, it was a rather interesting coincidence on that, Doctor. One night several years ago, I was walking early in the evening down along Fairfax Street. It was between 18th and 19th. You know the block?
Yes.
I just put Ed Hickey into a taxi. Ed had been mixing his rye with his gin, and I just felt that he needed conveying. Well, anyway, I was walking down along the street, and I heard this voice saying, "Good evening, Mr. Dowd." Well, I turned around, and here was this big 6-foot rabbit leaning up against a lamppost. I thought nothing of that, because when you've lived in a town as long as I've lived in this one, you get used to the fact that everybody knows your name. And naturally, I went over to chat with him. And he said to me, he said, "Ed Hickey was a little spiffed this evening, or could I be mistaken?" Well, of course, he was not mistaken. I think the world and all of Ed, but he was spiffed. Well, we talked like that for a while. And then I said to him, I said, "You have the advantage on me. You know my name, and I don't know yours." And right back at me, he said, "What name do you like?" Well, I didn't even have to think twice about that. Harvey's always been my favorite name. So I said to him, I said, "Harvey." And this is the interesting thing about the whole thing. He said, "What a coincidence. My name happens to be Harvey."